Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Tech Summit podcast. My name is Francisco from Tech Summit.
I'm Chris.
Exactly. And we are back with episode 8. There's a lot to discuss, a lot more news than we were expecting, and a lot of controversies.
Of course, don't forget, everyone, to follow the social media right down there. Now, yeah, as mentioned, we have a lot more news today, significantly different from the last episode. So let's get started. Hit me.
Sure thing. But before that, I just wanted to bring up that we are also on Anchor.
That's right.
As of just a little bit ago. So if you would rather listen to this podcast in audio form, you can go ahead and just click on the Anchor link down in the description. But with that said, topic number 1 is going to be the new M1 chips for Apple's new MacBooks. It's going to be for specifically the 13-inch MacBook Air and the 13-inch MacBook Pro.
Okay.
Yeah. So these are going to be Apple's own CPUs, no more Intel. At the very least, yes. At least for the low end at the time. Though supposedly they are touting much better performance when it comes to Final Cut Pro and, like Apple software, Apple applications.
So there's a lot of things that they noted, at least in one of these articles here. Once again, we took trusty notes here. A trusty little notebook. This is one of those episodes.
I trust it.
And there are, for the MacBook Air specifically is what I want to focus on a little bit.
Yep.
They have a bunch of little specs. One of the weirder things for me is that obviously we're starting at $1,000 because it is Apple.
Yes, of course.
And what they tout in the $1,000 base version is a 7-core GPU.
That's odd, isn't it?
7-core.
7 cores.
I never heard of a 7-core GPU.
It's just a weird number, but I mean, hey, Apple is always there to reinvent the wheel, as some might say. So
that's a term.
Yeah,
that is a term we can use.
But my thoughts on that, I mean, as long as it works well, even if it is a weird number, at the end of the day, it technically doesn't really matter. But so far, people have been saying, hey, like, it's going to be great, it's going to be awesome if you use Apple software specifically.
Right. So you just mentioned reinventing the wheel. I feel like it's more like changing the wheel out for a square block and then charging you extra to sand it down into a wheel again, which is what I was going to note here. 7-core GPU for the base version with 256 gigabytes of storage, which is not a lot, and 8 gigabytes of RAM. If you spend an extra $250, though, you'll get 8-core GPU. So, a nice round number, what you would actually expect to get.
Yes.
With 512 gigabytes storage and still 8 gigabytes of RAM.
Okay.
And the max version, maxed out, is $2,050. And that will be 16 gigabytes of RAM and 2 terabytes of storage, presumably still an 8-core GPU.
Okay. Apple does definitely charge quite a bit of money when it comes to storage increases, and it's because they do use some of the fastest SSDs on the market.
Right.
Yeah, but even then, there is still definitely a markup on that end.
I just wanted more than anything just to point out the fact that it's a 7-core GPU at the base version, and if you want like an actual reasonable number, you have to pay an extra $250. Again, here's a block for a wheel. Now, if you want a traditional wheel, we'll just charge you extra for it. We'll sand it down for you. It's that's the reinventing the wheel that Apple seems to do.
I see what you mean. Yeah, it is strange, a 7-core GPU. It honestly, I've never heard of anything like that in the past. But if anyone is going to do it, I think that it is going to be Apple.
It only makes sense that it's Apple.
Yes, at least. But supposedly, like a lot of great things are coming from it if you are super deep into the Apple ecosystem already.
Yeah.
So again, like as I brought up a couple of times, when it comes to Final Cut Pro, they're touting better numbers on that end. But one thing that they want to specifically emphasize has actually been the battery life itself of each respective MacBook. So I think we said that for the MacBook Pro, it was probably like I I think 20 hours of movie playback
I believe something like that. Yeah.
and 17 and 18-ish hours of a
Yeah.
oh yeah. So 17 hours of web browsing.
Yeah. And for the MacBook Air, I have it written down here: 15 hours of battery life for browsing, and then 18 for video playback.
Yeah, which I mean, it sounds very impressive.
It's
And
very nice.
yeah, and I can definitely see a lot of people, like maybe not us, because you and I like to do like a lot more intensive work on our devices,
Mhm.
even if it's on the go. Like
Mhm.
me, I bought an iPad Pro. I know, I bought an iPad Pro so that I can edit videos on the go. And it has been a great machine for that either way. And even when it comes to the battery life, like I can still expect it to last me all day.
Yeah.
And obviously, it is using Apple's own silicon. So here, I'm not surprised that most of the improvements have actually come in regards to battery life, because when it comes to Apple's own silicon, uh, and well, their own software optimization too, is that it's not very draining on the battery. Like it's actually very battery efficient.
I mean, you say battery life, but battery life is not the only place that they claim to be making a big improvement on. I want to see how you react to some of these lofty claims that Apple has put out here for the MacBook Air specifically.
Oh, go for it.
That the MacBook Air is going to be 98% faster than PC laptops. We're not done yet.
Keep going.
We're not done yet. 3.5 times faster than the MacBook Air that was released earlier this year. 5 times faster graphics performance. 9 times faster machine learning workloads. 2 times faster SSD performance. And put a big fat citation needed because Apple did not say how they measured any of this.
I feel like all of this, again, has to do with Apple specific software, and they're just not being very direct about it.
I was about to say, I mean, and that's the thing. The software obviously is not built in. You know, it's an extra $300 if you want Final Cut Pro X in there.
Yes.
Another $200 if you want Logic Pro. So, like, it depends on the software, definitely. But I just
Mhm.
find that very, very lofty, especially when they then reveal that they have not actually, like, they don't tell us how they measured that performance whatsoever. And it's like,
Those are, I mean, just hearing it, ridiculous claims, of absolutely ridiculous claims. I don't think that on Apple's first attempt of putting their own silicon on the laptop, that they're already going to be massively outperforming their old Intel chips.
3.5 times faster than the same laptop they put out this year. That is insane.
I do not believe that
That is
for a second.
no. I mean, by all means, if that ends up turning out to be true, then, you know, I guess Apple maybe have made the right move to switch over to their own CPUs. In which case, let's get some Fs in the chat for Intel. You know, taking a lot of L's recently. You know.
Yes. No matter what Intel does, they've been like constantly getting tossed into the road to get run over by AMD, for instance.
Yeah, the one place that Intel seems to still have a leg up is on user benchmark, which a lot of people have been saying is no longer really a reliable way to like see CPU benchmarks anymore, because the 5950X like crushed every benchmark, and it was listed as like the 6th best CPU on user benchmark, and the Intel is still a top dog. It's like,
Yeah, no way.
so, you know, Intel seems to really be lagging behind on the CPU market. And what's that new one they're going to be coming out with? The new CPU line, the something Lake?
I always forget the names, but I mean, if we've had Kaby Lake and Coffee Lake refreshes for so long, I wonder what they're actually going to call it. Was it Ice Lake, or was it this current generation that it was?
I don't remember. 11th gen, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
11th gen.
11th gen.
The 11th gen CPUs, you know, there's a lot riding on them.
Yeah, I'm not expecting too much because, I mean, look at it this way. When we had the 8th generation Intel CPUs, they finally made the Core i7 into a 6-core CPU. Like Ryzen was already a thing at the time, and they started off with the 1700X, I would say, at 8 cores, 16 threads. So on Intel's end, we had 6 cores and 12 threads, which we were like, yay, amazing. Finally, it looks like they're starting to move things up. And that's actually the CPU that I have on my own machine.
Mm-hmm.
And then for ninth gen, they just said, screw hyperthreading. We're going to give you guys an extra 2 cores, but we're going to literally slash the threads by half.
Oh no.
So actually, my 8700K has more threads than the 9700K, which has 8 cores, 8 threads, which is insane to me. Like, that's why I didn't even bother paying the extra money for that CPU, because it didn't make a ton of sense to me. If you want hyperthreading, you had to get the i9.
Right.
So that was clearly done on purpose, for no other reason than to just try to get you to pay up for the i9. And then with the 10th gen CPUs, as far as I'm aware, they did bring hyperthreading back.
Okay.
So it looks like Intel is really trying hard to compete here.
They're trying, but they've been failing pretty badly lately. Like, they've lost their grip. I think AMD has officially overtaken them as like the dominant CPU, right? Like,
When it comes to performance, yes. I'm not too sure about market share yet, though.
I guess maybe.
Yeah, I think that there's still going to be that transitionary period where, like me, I'm pretty sure that my next CPU is going to be an AMD CPU.
I've already guaranteed that. I mean, I failed with 5950X. I'm probably just going to settle for the 3950X because, it's not that much of a drop off in performance.
Right, yeah.
Comparatively speaking. And it's still a massive step up from what I currently have.
Ryzen 3?
Yeah, like one of the first gen ones.
Oh, wait. Do you have a 1300X?
I believe so.
Okay, yeah, you definitely need that upgrade. However, you're going to notice that boost when you finally get to it.
Oh, no, I hope to do so by the end of this month. At this point, like I don't want to wait until restocks for AMD CPUs. I don't want to wait until restocks or anything. No, I just want to get it done.
Yeah,
get it done.
I'm happy for you. You're making that jump.
So, I'm not too familiar when it comes to MacBooks or MacBook Air,
Mhm.
so you might want to help me out on this one. But
Sure thing.
one of the reports is that it's going to be super quiet, which is good. But one of the
Mhm.
reasons why it's going to be very quiet is because there's no fan inside.
Yeah, I mean that's been the thing that.
That is a typical Apple thing?
Yes.
Really?
Like when it comes to the Air, I would say that at least with the latest models for sure.
Doesn't that seem kind of funny that the MacBook Air has no air circulation inside it?
It does have vents, for it to be able to like exhaust some air,
But there's
but
no fan inside.
yeah.
That just makes me wonder when it comes to possible overheating.
Over-
Especially with the workloads that you and I would do.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking like
I mean, we wouldn't get MacBook Airs
Hey.
at that point.
it would have been nice. It would have been nice to have such a sleek little thing, but
Mhm.
like I don't know, it just doesn't really make sense.
And yeah,
It
there was
doesn't-
a fly near my mic.
Yeah, it decided to plant itself. Anyway, it would have been really nice to have like a very sleek, powerful machine like that. But now I'm just worried about it becoming like a molten core. It's like
Mm-hmm.
they talk so much about all the performance, but does that performance even matter if you melt all of the pieces inside because there's no fan? Is that even a concern?
It's not something that is widespread by any means. I would say. I would say that because I mean, people who get a MacBook Air are usually not doing like crazy video editing like we would, or crazy 3D rendering like you would in particular. So they would likely have at minimum a 13-inch MacBook Pro, which still kind of makes us wonder about those numbers and whether or not they would actually hold up. But yeah, like I would say that the Ultrabook market, like the MacBook Air, and even the 13-inch MacBook Pro, those are Ultrabooks. The Ultrabook market in general, usually when it comes to cooling and things like that, they just don't really have the room for that kind of thing, unfortunately.
Right.
Like, if you do want that form factor, it would be really hard to actually fit a fan inside.
My thing is, in that instance, why? Okay, so if people are not going to be getting those MacBook Airs for that kind of workload,
Mm-hmm.
why are you then selling a version with 16 gigabytes of RAM, 2 terabytes of storage, and all? Like, why are you selling this super deluxe version that presumably has all that space in parts so that way you can do production work? Why would you spend $2,000 for that? Who's in the market for that particular machine?
I really don't know, to be completely honest. I don't see who would, um, who would be able to justify that, and like having to deal with the potential cooling issues there. I mean,
I would say you at that point you need an external fan, and at that point, is it really portable? Is it really that portable or like small form factor if you have to attach an external fan to it?
no. I would say that that would be more so if you wanted to use like your MacBook Air or your 13-inch MacBook Pro on on your workstation.
Mm-hmm.
So like you would just have like your little external fan, and you would just like lay your laptop on top of it. I would say that that's really like the best way of justifying that. But even then, it's like an external fan is really not that great. An internal fan is really where it's at. They've actually had cooling issues in the past with the Core i9 15-inch MacBook Pro, where the fans inside just weren't enough to cool it. So it was just like throttling like crazy.
Oh,
Like it was getting really hot, which is why they ended up coming up with a 16-inch MacBook, because they realized that they needed more space. You almost got the fly.
that would have been gross anyway.
It would have been.
Yeah, that would have been really gross.
Our poor desk.
So close.
Yes. However, on other news, we also have
Yes.
something very important, and it has to do with something that we have been more or less complaining about. So
Yes.
we know that the 3000 series has been
Ah,
very difficult to get your
back
hands on.
to the NVIDIA shame corner.
Of course.
Use the same sound effect again. We better use this board.
Yes.
Yes.
It's
So-
there for a reason.
So, go ahead.
Yeah. So, RTX 3080 Ti
Okay.
releasing as soon as January 2021.
And how much VRAM is in there?
20 gigs of VRAM.
Calling back to our second episode when we were talking about it allegedly being canceled, it turns out it died, so it can rise again with a TI at the end of its name.
Yes. Yeah. And speaking of Ti, there's still
Yes.
more. 3060 Ti.
The fabled 3060 that is actually not that big.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, as far as we know, like, it's probably going to be what, $400?
very good for the value, but
Yeah. I mean, it is still going to be a massive jump, I'm sure, for like a lot of people. On the lower end of things. And it's going to have 8 gigs of VRAM, which is, I mean, for $400, that is still very good. Assuming that it is going to cost $400. I'm just guesstimating here, right? But I mean, those two graphics cards that we are expecting in the future now. The 3080 Ti is one that really catches my attention because $1,000. Or no, sorry, I'm gonna correct myself. $999.99. Yeah. Only free shipping if you spend exactly 1,000, folks, not including
exactly,
tax.
yeah, that's how they get you.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's going to cost 1,000.
Yes. So that much I think we know, and it's going to have double the amount of VRAM that the current 3080 has, for an extra $300. Honestly, I would say that I'm in the market for that. Like that's something I would probably invest in.
I feel like it's a more substantial upgrade for you than the regular 3080 was.
Yes, though. While I was interested in the 3090, I would have preferred to just get the regular 3080. But this is a very good in between, in my opinion.
Yes.
However, that is if I even decide that that I want to stick with NVIDIA moving forward, because I'm very curious about AMD's new GPUs as well.
Right.
Like, I very much want to know how they're going to perform. But
That's
what is
right.
your take on that?
That's right. They launched this past week, haven't they?
I think so when it comes to the No, actually.
The GPUs haven't launched yet.
No.
That was like the 12th.
No. I think it's like the 15th or the 16th around there. So
Okay.
actually, I think that by the time this episode releases, we might have the GPUs already out on the market.
Okay.
Are they going to sell out right away? I'm assuming so.
Probably.
Yeah, because that happened with even just the Ryzen CPUs that just came out.
So you asked for my take. I mean,
Mhm.
of course, you know how I stand as someone who tries to do productive work and who needs an NVIDIA GPU at the current moment for a lot of that stuff, unless we're, talking OpenCL for Blender. I really hope that AMD can, in fact, pick things up and really like make a push towards productive work and workstation related stuff as opposed to just gamers. You know, for games, yeah, it's a really good tough field. Actually, I think AMD wins out if only just because of the cheaper prices and like the 3090 is completely redundant at this point.
Mm-hmm.
With AMD offering the card that they do, and now you have a 3080 Ti, the 3090 is completely useless.
No, because
Virtually.
the 3090 still has some more VRAM than the 3080 Ti.
The one notable benefit I can think of for a 3090 is that you can, combine multiple ones together.
That is one big factor too.
But
also,
that is also a lot of money. You're talking $3,000 on GPUs alone for 2 of them.
you also have to purchase the NVLink cable in order to connect them, and they tend to cost around $100.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like just for that connector. But
But in any case, the GPU market is definitely very interesting.
Mhm.
Like I would really like it for AMD to really pick it up and start targeting towards people like you or me who may want these kinds of things for work. I mean, your work can usually do it work with an AMD GPU relatively fine.
yeah, I think I can usually go with either or
Right. It's
for the most part.
it's my line of work where I start to really run into those issues just because there's only one GPU render that currently takes AMD.
Yes, and right now you're mostly operating on Arnold when using Maya.
I'm operating on Arnold CPU when using
Mhm.
Maya. Probably going to swap over to at least test out Arnold GPU because that is in beta,
Mhm.
and then definitely look at Octane or Redshift in the future as well. And none of those take AMD at the current moment.
Right. Yeah.
Again, AMD support coming soon. It's really been buzzing me out as.
I know. That was a good one. Go for it.
More soundboard stuff.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what it is.
We're finally making more use of it. But I would say that, yeah, I mean, the main reason is because Arnold requires CUDA cores.
Yeah.
Which AMD does not have.
Exactly, and Redshift and Octane also require CUDA cores.
Correct.
Redshift has mentioned AMD support
Mhm.
coming soon, but we don't know actually when that is. And
Yeah.
the last thing I want to do is to go in for an AMD GPU,
Yeah.
an AMD GPU, and then get screwed out because Redshift just keeps that as a coming soon for the next 2-3 years.
Yeah, like imagine it just gets like canceled and we just don't know that.
Exactly. I mean, it's a moot point because I have the 3070. I got lucky enough to actually get a hold of one.
Mhm.
I don't know if I got it.
Did you get it? No.
I have no idea. I did not get it.
Oh, that time? This time?
Neither.
Neither. It's fine.
So, speaking of annoying pests, scalpers have also definitely made everything a lot harder, and I don't think that's really going to change that much in January when these cards come out.
No, yeah. I think that as long as supply issues continue to arise, due in part to, the current circumstances, which I don't want to get demonetized for just naming it, I would say that like even without that, scalping would still be an issue. But yeah, I would say that because of that, we also just have more stock issues in general because of that. And
Right.
people are now more desperate to actually overspend on graphics cards, overspend on CPUs, overspend on gaming consoles, which is a big one for sure.
Yes, that's right. Consoles have launched this past week. Whoa!
Yeah.
Congratulations to everyone who was able to find one. Unfortunately, someone here wasn't.
Yes, and I have to say, I'm pretty pissed about it, but at least we have gotten constant updates from Sony saying, hey, we are going to be bringing in more stock very soon. And actually, like just about every day, they're like, hey, check back on our website on the next day.
Yeah.
Which is something that I very much appreciate. I appreciate that kind of communication.
NVIDIA hasn't really been doing that as much.
Right. We don't really get that kind of communication from NVIDIA. Instead, what we do get on Twitter is a bunch of, hey, remember, turn RTX on.
Yeah, exactly.
For those of you that actually have
you guys
the card.
remember, you guys can get Call of Duty if you get a 30, 80, and 90.
Yeah. Yeah, like just remember to buy one when we secretly.
Just good luck finding.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I bet that they're going to put eBay as their main seller. as their main retailer from now on. Which at this point they should.
In any case, you do have those new cars, and they are exciting. They are exciting cars. The problem is just that it would be really nice if we could look at this in terms of like, wow, look at these performance specs. This is really cool. Look at all those core. It would be really nice to be able to talk about these things, but we can't because it all becomes a moot point because nobody can get the damn things. It's like, what do you do about that?
Yeah.
I saw an article about a lot of people trying to get these cards by making bots of their own. Like it had a Reddit user who shared scripts, so you have a bot fighting against other bots.
Yes.
Like this is not what we thought about when we were talking about Judgment Day or Skynet. It's like we thought bots were going to be shooting at each other, not trying to swipe a card online.
This just isn't. I mean, it's not fair.
Like,
it's not.
What is the end conclusion of that? You're just going to have like every single launch for every electronic will just be full of bots trying to like get the one up on everyone else. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Like you shouldn't have to get more bots just to compete with other bots. Bots should not be part of it at all.
No.
There should be some measures to try and protect users from that. Like Sony, for instance, they have a queue, right? If the website is experiencing a ton of traffic, they leave you on a queue. You just have to wait on there until it's your turn to buy. Like they give you turns to be able to actually buy something instead of just everybody being able to hog the website all at the same time.
Right. No, and it's just, it makes a bit more sense. And I understand. I understand that people might be getting a little tired of the fact that we keep talking about stock issues or whatever, but that's just what the situation is. There's nonstop stock issues. It's really difficult to talk about how great these cards are when nobody can get one.
Yeah.
I'll start talking about how good the 3070 is when I finish my build, hopefully the next week or so. And even then, in order to do that, I have to step down from, the original CPU that I wanted in favor of, one that currently exists and isn't being scalped, the 3950X. And that's an unfortunate thing. But, if we do want to talk a little bit about the cards themselves, 3060 Ti, I know that's the one that a lot of people are not really going to be paying attention to, but I feel like that's a really good budget card.
You got it this time. Fantastic.
All right. Anyway.
Yes, as you were saying.
The 3060 Ti seems like it could possibly, like the fact that it's going to be at that budget option. You're saying $400? I can actually see it being $300. Because you're talking, because
I'm seeing more of a middle ground there.
Because we're talking $500 for the 3070, $700 for the 3080. We're gonna ignore the 3090. So we're talking $200 price gaps. I can totally see the 3060 being $300. The budget option, the option that finally replaces the 1060. For so many people, like the 1060 is still the most used card according to Steam analytics. So like. For perhaps a lot of people can actually start making that upgrade from the 1060 to a 3060 Ti and at least get some level of ray tracing,
it was such a great card at launch. Like, it was just great. Now,
I can imagine.
And the 1660 and the 1650 when the 2000 series RTX cards came out. Wasn't really that popular, I don't think. No.
Probably not.
Like, the 1060 still reigns supreme, and I'm sure that the 1050 Ti is also still like a really popular card.
Yeah, maybe the 3060 Ti ends up being like that sort of budget replacement for a lot of casual people. And then the 3080 Ti would be sort of that like more for professionals who don't really want to splurge or can't find something like a 3090.
Right.
But with that said, I think our monitor there is giving us a little bit of a cue. I think we might actually be heading towards the end of this particular episode.
That's right. And with that said, we would love to hear your thoughts in the comments about both, what's going on Apple's end. If you disagree or agree with us, we would love to hear your take down in the comments below.
Is the Apple MacBook Air going to be 98% faster than PC laptops? If it is, that's fantastic. I would love to see that, but maybe that finally turns me to Apple.
Let's find out. And also, Are the RTX 3080 Ti and 3060 Ti going to be actually purchasable by normal people? Let
And
us
of
find
course, if they are in fact purchasable, what are our thoughts on them? Again, 3060 is looking pretty good there.
out. Yeah, of course. But with that said, thank you very much for stopping by tonight's episode. Again, make sure to follow us on the social media down below. And once more, I would like to bring in a mention for Anchor, as we are now over there. If you would rather listen to the podcast in audio form, it is going to be available there too. Links to that down below. But with that said, this has been Francisco and
Chris,
yeah,
good night. Travel
Good-
well.
Travel well. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.